Joe, you have to shut the door. Good morning. We are live on Goaldigger here on LinkedIn Live. I'm Cate Luzio, founder and CEO at Luminary. And it's Friday morning here in New York City. So no matter where you're tuning in from, hopefully you'll have a great rest of the day. If you're on the West Coast, I know we have a couple of people joining from very far in Europe. So you guys are on your way to your weekend. But I am really excited today to have not only a Luminary ambassador and now friend, a member, a little known story about Aaliyah and she joins Luminary. I guess that would have been 2019 when you joined, early 2020. And we're chatting and I'm on her LinkedIn and we figure out that we both went to the University of Maryland. And not only that, we were in the same 4 years together, never having met. Now, that's not surprising because it's 50,000 people, but even more small world is she went to high school in New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey, and one of my college roommates she went to high school with. So Aaliyah, that's like a long way to get to you being on Goaldigger, but it is such a small world, and we're so excited to have you. So Aaliyah Thomas, founder and CEO of Elevated Style by Aaliyah. So welcome, Aaliyah.
Thank you so much, Cate. I'm so excited.
Yes, go Terps, go Terps.
Yes, I know. What a story, right? It is a small world.
It's crazy to think that, we've graduated a very long time ago, right? So for those of you that are listening, our graduating year was 1997. But 20-something years later, you walk into Luminary, and you came to Luminary by somebody else.
Yes.
Right? Sarah?
Yes, Sarah, founder of the Now NYC. And I had a few meetings there, and I didn't know about Luminary. I knew about other shared co-working spaces, and I stepped into Luminary and I was like, what is this place? And why haven't I heard about it? And then interestingly enough, after a few meetings and after meeting people randomly speaking about Luminary, it was just the word of mouth thing with female entrepreneurs. And I was like, I have to join. So.
And then you've been an amazing member ever since. So let's talk about you. So we can talk about Maryland all day long.
Yes.
In 1997. And you were a model for a long time.
Yes. And ironically, during college, I was modeling in college. My story is somewhat interesting. Ever since I was young, I used to go through the magazines. My grandmother was super glamorous and fashionable, and I just wanted to be like her. I wrote in my diary when I was 9 years old that I either wanted to be a veterinarian, a model, or a women's basketball coach. And I said that I wanted to help little girls be better. And it's interesting that I'm doing that, with women, with grown women today. But yeah, I started off as a model, and it was a tough industry. And, there were many times where I wanted to not be in it, even though that was my dream. And it's really hard on women. It's everything everyone thinks the industry is. And I knew there was a time where I had to just get out. It wasn't serving me anymore. And I knew it didn't have any longevity for my career. But I learned a lot in my 20 plus years there. And thankfully so, even with some of the challenging experiences, being told you're not enough, your hair is too this, you need to lose 15 pounds. And I grew up as a skinny little girl, and, I used to be made fun of because I was so skinny and tall and lanky and played basketball. And then, it's just an industry that tears you down. And, but fortunately, I'm thankful for those experiences because it brought me to where I am today.
So let's kind of dig in a little bit to how that experience, and in particular, probably not all, as you just mentioned, good experiences. How did that drive you to kind of taking the risk and starting your own company? Or were there other bumps in the road or other sort of paths you took before you decided to take the leap and start your own company?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking that. You know, when you're passionate about something, sometimes you don't know what it really looks like for you. If you're fortunate enough, you know what it looks like right away. But it took me a good 10 years of having the idea of wanting to do something to empower women, start my own business. And I just wasn't sure how to use all of my skills and wrap it up into one. After modeling, I've done merchandising, I've worked in retail, I've done marketing. I used to do fashion events. I've worked with stylists, with photographers. I was just trying to figure out my thing, you know? And when it came down to it, I always knew I just wanted to work one on one with women and to help them feel good about themselves. Like I saw so many girls that were so down on themselves in the industry. And it was just, you know, heartbreaking. And I was like, I don't want to be a part of that anymore, but I want to be a part of something better that helps uplift. So fast forward to present, then I became a mom, surprisingly. My kids will have to know that story one day. Twice, mom, two times over, two boys. I stopped working for a bit. It was important for me to stay home. I'm a New York City mom. I just kind of wanted to figure out that life first. I ended up staying home for 6 years. I was supposed to take 1 year off, and it turned into six. And then there came a point where I was like, you know what? I have more to give. I want my boys to see me then I'm more than just their mom. You know, I used to do all these things before becoming a mom, and I still want to do the things, you know? So I had to come to a decision where I think I was 40. It was a milestone birthday, and I said, you know what? This is what I want to do. I've been writing about it in a journal for years. I know I can do it. I've been doing it free for a long time, and I just needed that push to do it. Because whenever you start your own business, you're wondering, who's going to buy my services? You know, is this something people want? Is this something I can really do? Who do I think I am to, you know, go out there in the world and start my own thing? So those are real challenges, but I'm here.
You're here, and like you said, it's not been without its challenges. I remember even, I think, one of the first conversations that you and I had about growing your business, and certainly pre-pandemic, right? As any entrepreneur founder knows, it's hard, right? It's hard to figure out the marketing. It's hard to figuring out the business model. Pandemic hits. You are seen as, again, this is the myth, right? Everybody's kind of put into that one bucket. You're a stylist. People are staying at home. And I remember, again, having these email conversations like, what do I do? You really adapted I think very quickly, right? I know you don't feel that way, but when you think about the length of this pandemic is happening, you adapted. You didn't pivot, you adapted. I like the word adapt much better than pivot because you didn't change directions, right? How did you adapt from what you were doing as still a young company and a young founder to dealing with and really growing your brand during this pandemic?
Yeah. So, well, there are two things that I leaned on during that time. You know, I think everyone was just frozen when, you know, this happened to us, right? As a community, as a world, it's like, what the hell do we do? You know? So I leaned on community first and foremost, and then mentors. So who are the women that I admire, respect, who's already where I want to be? And I need help. Like, I can't figure this out. And then you start going down this rabbit hole of fear. And then at some point, you got to, you know, lean on your community, lean on those mentors to get you out of it and figure out the next direction of how you're going to adapt. And one of the things one of my mentors had me do was write the victory log. And I'm sure you're familiar with that. Every woman, no matter if you have your own company or not, writing your victory log, whether it's once a month, once a year, the things that you're proud of, the things that you've overcome in your personal and professional life. And I've never really done that. And I sat down and I did it during a really challenging time during the pandemic. And it's ironic that you use the word adapt because I realized all my life I've adapted to a lot of different types of situations. And I've never looked at it as a strength. And it made me look back on my life, moving every 5 years as a kid, being the only Black girl in predominantly white environments, and just having certain challenges, health challenges for the past 20 years. Everything's good now. But I've adapted. And I was like, you know what? I have to do it again. I can do it. I've been there. So I'm going to shift. And I started creating sip and style events. So that was my big shift for this year.
Okay, and tell us about Sip and Style.
On and on. I was like, let me just take a little pause. Well, two things. I also had to shift to see more of what my market wanted. So I predominantly help female entrepreneurs who are looking to become more visible in their business, whether it's on social media, you're doing more live webinars, you're a keynote speaker, you might be rebranding yourself and prepping for photo shoots. So that's a main part of my business, but also working with women in career transition. So they come from a super conservative industry, and you're looking to just kind of transform yourself and put more of your authentic self and image out there. And so I had to really focus on who my client is, what they really want, and what are people missing right now. And community was huge for me. I know I miss in-person events at Luminary. That is hands down, one of my favorite things I enjoyed there. But now I enjoy it in a different way. Showing up for these virtual events. But I knew I wanted to create some sort of community while still inspiring women. And so that's when I started the Sip and Style, which are virtual networking happy hours. A little bit of style and a little bit of chat and a little bit of fun.
And you actually, listen, we all know the digital world and we're on Zooms all day long. Eventually physical events will come back, right? I think there will always be a hybrid component where you've got online and that certainly helped Luminary, right?
Right.
March of 2020, we were a physical community in New York City. We were bound by those four walls. That's not a bad thing because New York is a huge city and we want to support a lot of women, but it broke down the barriers for us. And now we're global. And I love the word adapt because, again, I didn't change directions when we built the virtual arm. I didn't change directions because of the pandemic. I adapted to the situation, like you're saying. So women, right, leveraging you and your role and your business are also adapting themselves, right? It's, I need presence. I need this victory log. Some of that comes out of style. Some of that comes out of just how you present yourself. You know that better than anyone, given your modeling career. But if you were to take some of the women that you're working with, what are some of the biggest challenges that they face when they come to you?
Right. Well, first, I just want to say Luminary has adapted phenomenally. I know it's been challenging for you too, but so many women look up to you and look up to this community. And thank you for this space, virtually and in person. So I had to throw that out there. But some of the main challenges my clients are facing right now is the visibility piece. So whether you are in a professional environment, you're working for a company, and you want to show up better, kind of dress more as that leader that you are, but you're not presenting that way. And they're just not quite sure how to do it. They just know that there's a problem, but they're not sure how to tackle it. And there is a system. There's a framework that I do with my clients called the EDIT system. And then as far as female entrepreneurs, this is the year of visibility. We're all trying to navigate this digital space with social media. Like there's just so much noise out there. Yeah. So it's how can you and your brand stand out? And, we focus a lot of time on building our product and our service. And then sometimes women forget, well, how am I presenting? How am I presenting my brand's face? And that is a thing. People want to see who's behind the brand. People want to see your personality. So it's all about standing out and not being afraid to be visible. So many women are a little afraid. They might be powerhouses in other areas of their life, but they're afraid to kind of be visible and shine in that way.
You mentioned victory log, and honestly, I'd never heard of that, right? So I think it's really important, particularly for women, whether you're a founder, you work in a small company, or you're in corporate America, that you have a running list of your accomplishments, particularly if you have a boss, so that your boss is aware of those. But the victory log for you, how did that also help you adapt to the current situation? But more than that, let's get beyond the pandemic. How does that propel your business going forward?
Yeah, the victory log turned into some more journal entries and more introspective thinking about what I really wanted to put out there. So whenever I, over the past year, was super challenged, sometimes you have those days where you're like, does anyone hear me out there? Is this what I still should be doing? Like someone send me a sign, right? And then you have that call. I listened to one of your chats. I think you were talking about the founder of Hint, and you were having a really bad day, and you were just like, and then she just gave you some advice to kind of get back in the game, to keep on swimming. And I love that. Like, you know, you just got to keep swimming. You know, you'll reach the destination somewhere. But and you know, Victory Log helped me write a list of affirmations of what it is that I really need to focus on every day. So I wasn't doing affirmations, even though I believe in that work and meditation and all of that. But this past year has really helped me look more into myself, and what I want and what I want to give and share. And the affirmations in the Victory Log made it very apparent, of how I need to adapt and how I show up every day, whether it's content I put out there, whatever I'm writing, or how I'm supporting, you know, another woman in her brand. So that's something I want to focus more on this year that I realize is important to me as well.
This whole journey that you've been on for 20 something years, right? I want to talk a little bit about that what women often hear is the gap in their resume, right? So you were thinking you were going to take a year off, the kids, it ended up being 6. I am sure, or I'm pretty certain you probably had that. Well, why you were out of the workforce for 6 years, right? And we are going to see that in 2021 and 22 and the effects of that, because so many 2.2 million women have left the workforce. Men don't often get if you left, not that they leave, but if they left, what's the gap in your resume? How did you take that 6 years where you were working as a mother, which is, you know, the hardest job in the world, and kind of catapult that into, I've taken the 6 years off, I've learned a lot about myself, now I'm ready to do this?
Right. Well, I believe any successful person in business, it all has to do with your network. And even though there was that huge gap and there were those fears, like, what am I going to do next? Fortunately, I had the idea that had been kind of like sitting in my head for almost 10 years. But I really leaned on my network, and I realized I literally made a list of what someone told me was called my cheerleader list. So, you know, who are the top 20 in my life, past, present, even if they're a stay-at-home mom. You know, a lot of stay-at-home moms have a lot of, they have a great background, you know, and used to work and still have a great network. And sometimes it's just leaning on that, not being afraid to ask for what you want. Tell people what you're doing. Don't shy away from, oh, I'm thinking about this, or I want to try this. No, I'm doing this. This is what I need. Can you help me? I would, you know, or love to chat with you. So it was really leaning on other people to kind of help introduce me and broaden my network. And I also volunteered quite a bit during my stay-at-home time. I was a PTA president for a few years. That actually expanded my network, and that's something you can also put on a resume. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can find that you could put on a resume that may not necessarily be a professional experience.
But I talk to so many women that don't put that on their resume, right? Around the PTA or the philanthropic organizations that they're part of. They're doing so much in those organizations. There's leadership, there's time management, there's fundraising, all of those things. And so packaging that up is just different than if you were in a traditional job, right? So, I mean, you could do the same thing. Like remember when you graduated, right? And it's putting together who you are. I mean, back then we sent the resumes and the cover letter.
Way back
when. But you really help also women reframe their story and package themselves in a different way and adapt to the situation or the audience that they're talking to.
Right. I find that women, no matter their age, no matter their profession, no matter their size, all of us have stuff that we hold on to when it comes to image. So, you know, there's the confidence component is huge. And again, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of women out there who are total badasses at what they do, but not completely confident in how they present. And that's what I really want to help women do, because it's not just about the clothes at the end of the day. Yes, I can help you build a killer wardrobe, feel stylish, it's simplified, but getting to the root of who you are. And then some women have never even thought about that before. You buy things because it's on sale, or you need something really quick, or it looked cute on your sister or a friend, or that's how your boss dresses and that's how you think you should dress. but you're really not thinking about who I am and being intentional about, your wardrobe as a whole. And that's what I like helping create.
For me, and you know this, it's so much the what I put on me is so much about personality.
Yes.
And I remember way back in the day, in one of my first banking jobs, I came from tech, right, a couple of years in tech, and then went into banking. And I walked in for my interview. I got the job, and they sat me down and said, "Cate, we love you. You're going to do really well here, but you have to wear a suit every day." So, and I thought, well, wait a second. I look very professional. I love my style. And I went out and bought suits at J. Crew. This is back when they really tailored to that community, right? That was the business style. And I wore them for about 2 weeks. And I was like, I can't do this. This is not my personality. I can still look good and professional without having to wear a suit every day. But it took a little time for me to figure out who I was inside and out to project that personality.
Yes. And I love that about you, because we've always had conversations about style. You love fashion, but I have a lot of clients that hate fashion, but it's a necessary evil to get dressed every day. Whether you love it or you hate it, image still matters, no matter what industry you're in, and whether you're just all virtual or in person. But our personality really should shine through how we express ourselves through clothes, and it's sad when I see women kind of bottling that up or afraid to shine for whatever reason. And again, we all have our stuff. So once you open it up, it's like a load lifts, and people can see themselves in a different light. Oh, I never thought about that, or I never thought about that color. I had one client, she was 52, and for however many years since she was a teenager, her mom told her that she looked fat in stripes. And this woman is amazing. She looked awesome in a lot of things, but there were certain things she shied away from that she loved because of one comment,
right.
Or someone's husband said something to them, or ex-husband years ago, and that kind of puts them in a box. So now that client wears stripes and polka dots and different patterns. But once you uncover what your personality is and what you really love, and then really implementing that in your style and your wardrobe, it really does make a difference, personally and professionally, because everyone's attracted to that confidence.
I never wear skinny jeans for that reason.
Skinny jeans are not for everybody. And I do mean that. They have had a reign for a good, 20 years. There are so many other types of jeans and I've seen you in the nice straight leg ankle crop jean. That looks great on you.
That's my style. See, that's why.
Yes. That's that for you. Yeah.
So I want to talk just for a few minutes about your experiences, because a lot of where you are today were driven by your experiences in that modeling career. And whether it was, like you said, lose 15 pounds, I am sure as a Black model, it wasn't easy either. It's still not easy, right? Racism, all of that. What are some of those experiences that you went through that really shaped who you are, not just as a business owner and professional, but also as a mom? Because now you're the mom of 2 boys.
Yes.
How has that shaped your experience? Those experiences, how have they shaped who you are today?
Yeah, I think, my experiences being the only Black girl, or my experiences in modeling being, I was always like the other, or, could she go for this? You were kind of, you were just an object, not a person. But, before Me Too was the Me Too movement, I've had my own experiences in the industry with, just some shady stuff. And I'm thankful that I've always had supportive women in my life that I could turn to, really strong women, my grandmother, my mother, aunts, a very matriarchal family I come from. And I knew who I was, and I knew my roots. It's sad, though, because there are a lot of women who may not have that. So that has definitely helped shape me, the women in my life. And now I'm raising 2 boys, 7 and 9, and my kids are mixed race, half Black, half white. So I go off of my experiences growing up and share a lot with them, and it's interesting showing them the world in this new light. And we have really great conversations that I didn't really used to have with my parents or my friends growing up. But it's an interesting time for kids growing up today, and I'm just trying to be as transparent as I can with my experiences with my kids.
do you think, and not to get political, but it's really important that we address these types of topics, is the Black Lives Matter movement? And it's interesting. I was saying last night to a very close friend of mine who is Black and is a very senior executive woman. I said, the problem is we keep bucketing these into these moments or movements, but Black Lives Matter was forever, right? Until there's true racial equality.
Right.
You struggled through a lot of that, right? Being mixed race, having two mixed race children. I mean, not being married to a white man, but having two mixed race boys. Also, a lot of the negativity was targeted to the men.
Mm-hmm.
How do we go forward? How are you using your voice, amplifying your voice in a positive way to move forward, in particular with your boys, but just also as who you are, because you do have a big voice?
Yes. It's interesting. People think just because you're in an interracial relationship that, things are all good. And, people have their own ideas of what that relationship is like. But, you still have hard conversations, just like someone who was, of the same race marriage. And we have learned a lot about each other during this past year, which has been great. And it's also just opened up conversations that we may not have had just yet. And it's also made me realize that I'd like to form more community with other mothers of who are in interracial relationships, because there is just a different dialogue there amongst those families and with our children. That might be another community I start. I don't know. That's something on my mind. So if anyone's interested, comment below, because I'm curious if that's a need out there. But the conversation keeps going. And, I've had conversations with friends, white friends that I haven't had ever, or, anywhere. So I love that it's brought out this transparency and this curiosity for people to come together and really share their stories. Because I've been able to share stories I haven't shared with anyone before, just because people are asking now. So that's been nice to build community and support that way.
And it goes back to your earlier comments around, making the ask and asking for help. It's also putting yourself out there, mm-hmm. right? And being vulnerable and saying, this is how I'm feeling today. Or if you're feeling like this, ask me the question, right? I mean, just being super open and honest, I think is so important. No matter who you are, as a leader, as a business leader, as an owner, we've got to be out there and really be vulnerable, be open, be honest. And I think you have done, as someone who now knows you pretty well and you've been part of our community, that's something that I've learned quite a bit about you, is you don't hold back, which is amazing. But that there aren't always good days. And you also have to sort of lean into that network, but embrace those not so good days and say, I'm struggling today. So and we've had those conversations, right? As women in general, and what our bodies are starting to go through as well, as mid 40s. But it is really important to lean into that network and not be the shrinking violet, but say, listen, this is where I need help.
Yes. And I think that generations before us with women, have had a hard time having those conversations, or they do it in private. But now, with the world being so visible digitally, we have that platform. And especially as leaders, I appreciate you always sharing that as well. And you talk about the real stuff, and you talk about what's going on in the world, because I know sometimes business leaders struggle with that. Should I get political? Should I really give people my opinion? Am I going to lose clients, customers, what have you? But my take on it is, we are all people first. And, as long as you're not excluding any one person, we have our own opinions, and it's okay to share that. And I think your mission is based on inclusivity. And part of that is including the leader being able to say what she has to say, and welcoming other people saying what they have to say. So I really appreciate it about you and about Luminary's philosophy as well.
Well, as we're coming to the end of the session, I do want to ask, what's on the horizon for Elevated Style by Aaliyah for 2021?
Yes, it's going to be more of what my mission is to inspire and elevate women and connect women. So we are going to expand Sip and Styles. We're going to be doing some company programming as well. So I'm looking forward to that, and just expanding the community. And I really found I've become more visible over the past year, creating my first video right when the pandemic started. And everybody has that fear of being visible, like my lighting. I don't have this. I don't have that. You just got to do it. You just got to put yourself out there. The more you do it, you get better at it. You meet people to help you get better at it. And it's just an organic process. So as I'm trying to be more visible and create community, that is what I'm looking to do with Elevated Style.
Well, you're already succeeding in creating community, and you're already succeeding by being that leader that brings people in versus pushes people away. I see it every time you walk in our physical doors, but anytime we're on a Zoom. And so I'm really excited to watch this year and see how we're involved as a partner. Aaliyah does a lot with Luminary and Sip and Styles. So stay tuned for that.
Yes.
Where I put in the banner where they can find you on social, but where else can they find you?
Yeah, so my two main platforms are Instagram at Elevated Style by Aaliyah. You can head to my website, elevatedstylebyaaliyah.com. And then lastly, I do style videos on LinkedIn every Friday. So check those out, comment, and share.
So wait, say that on LinkedIn every Friday.
Every Friday on LinkedIn, there's an elevated style tip.
And so does that come at a certain time?
No, it's usually between 9 a.m. and 12. But you look for a post every Friday for sure.
Okay, so we will have this sort of in perpetuity, whether you're a Luminary member or not. You can find this with Aaliyah on YouTube, on our Facebook, and certainly here on LinkedIn. I would be remiss if I didn't put up a Go Terps banner. I am a diehard Terp. We're going to get Aaliyah much more involved in speaking as an alum. And I have to say, I can never find Jill, who was one of my college roommates, who Aaliyah knows from playing basketball with her at Randolph High School.
Yes.
If she's listening, like this is the small world of women. And I'm so lucky that you came into Luminary. I'm thankful to Sarah Hammond O'Brien, who brought you to Luminary, and we're so lucky to have you as part of the community. I'm just excited to be that cheerleader for you as well, from the side. And it's a new 2021, and we just have to move forward.
Well, I'm excited to move forward with you, and I'm so happy we crossed paths again in life.
Amazing. Well, everyone, this has been Goaldigger on LinkedIn Live. Stay tuned next week, same time, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and have a wonderful weekend. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and wear a mask. And as everything else that's happening in the world, as my mom likes to say, this too shall pass. We have to just keep moving forward. And Aaliyah, you're a great example of that. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Cate. This was awesome. I'll see you next week on your other.
Okay. See you next week. Bye, everyone.